He was a broke student with nothing but a dying phone and a tired heart. She was a powerful billionaire hiding behind glass towers and guarded walls. When their worlds collided at a cold bus stop, one simple act of kindness sparked a chain reaction that would change both their lives forever. What started as a borrowed phone call became a journey of trust, healing, and unexpected love. Who was this mysterious woman? And why did she choose him? Where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories for more powerful tales that move the heart. The wind scraped along the sidewalk like sandpaper against skin, stinging Jaden Moore's cheeks as he huddled beneath the cracked bus shelter. His fingers were stiff, hidden deep in the pockets of a threadbare jacket that had long lost the battle against Chicago winters. His breath rose in sharp clouds, curling in the bruised twilight where the skyline swallowed the last traces of sun. Behind him, a billboard flickered half-dead, humming like it was trying to stay awake. Jaden glanced down at his phone. 1%. Of course. He exhaled, the sigh catching in the cold air. After a 12-hour shift bussing tables and scrubbing dishes, all he wanted was to get back to his freezing studio apartment, pull the thin blanket over his head, and disappear for a few hours. He shifted from foot to foot, trying to keep the blood flowing. The bus was late, again. Then came the sound of hurried heels against pavement. Not the clack-clack of casual steps, but frantic ones. His head turned just as a woman came into view, moving fast. She looked out of place. Mid-20s, maybe slightly older than him, with hair swept into a polished bun now unraveling in the wind. Her coat was tailored and expensive, her makeup smudged from haste rather than wear. She stopped a few feet in front of him, her breath visible, her eyes wide and scanning. "Excuse me," she said, her voice clipped but composed. "I'm sorry to bother you, really I am, but someone just stole my phone. I need to call my driver. It's kind of an emergency." Jaden blinked. The cold made his thoughts sluggish. "You need my phone?" "Just for one call," she said quickly. "Please, my car broke down near that construction site back there. I started walking, hoping to reach the main road, but someone bumped into me and took my phone right out of my pocket. Her eyes flicked over his face, reading him. "I swear I'm not trying to scam you." He hesitated. 1% battery. This phone was his only connection to class updates, to job shift changes, to his mom. But her voice, it wasn't desperate, it was steady, controlled. Like someone who never usually asked for help, but tonight had no choice. He handed it over. The woman took it with a breath of relief, nodding. "Thank you. Seriously." She turned slightly away and dialed a number from memory. "It's me," she said quietly. "I'm on 5th and Halston. My phone's gone, but I'm okay. Can you come get me?" A pause. "No, don't call the police. It's fine. Just hurry." She ended the call and looked back at Jaden, handing the phone back with surprising gentleness. "Thank you again. You didn't have to do that." Jaden shrugged. "You looked like you needed help." "I did." Her eyes lingered on him for a beat. "What's your name?" "Jaden." "Well, Jaden," she said with a small, sincere smile, "you probably saved me from a lot of trouble tonight." Before he could respond, headlights sliced through the dusky air. A black car slid to the curb like a shadow, its driver already stepping out. But the woman didn't move right away. "You're a student?" she asked, nodding at the faded university crest on his backpack strap. "Final year," he said, shifting awkwardly, trying to make it through. She smiled again, softer this time, something unreadable in her gaze. "Take care, Jaden." "You too." She turned, letting the driver hold the door open for her. As she disappeared into the car, he caught a glimpse of her profile, the curve of her jaw, the faint scar or birthmark just below her right eye. Then the door clicked shut, and the car slipped back into the city, leaving Jaden staring after it. He looked down at his phone. Dead. Of course. He sat on the cold metal bench and hunched forward, hands clasped in his lap. The moment felt strange, fleeting, like something he might forget by morning. But her face stayed in his mind. Her voice. That weight in her eyes. He didn't know he had just helped Eliza Hartwell, one of the youngest and most enigmatic tech investors in the country, or that her world was about to collide with his in ways he could never predict. All he knew was, for the first time in weeks, his heart felt a little less heavy. Jaden didn't think much about her after that night, not because he forgot, but because he didn't have the luxury to. Life, for him, had a way of pushing every unusual moment into the background, burying it under shift schedules, midterm deadlines, and the relentless hum of survival. He was too busy juggling 3 jobs and too tired to daydream. The cold got worse. The cracked window in his studio apartment let in more wind than light, and the radiator had started making a hollow knocking noise that echoed through the night like a ghost tapping from inside the walls. He learned to sleep through it with headphones in, until even music couldn't drown out his exhaustion. Each day bled into the next. Mornings at the campus cafe, afternoons in the science lab, nights spent tutoring or hauling boxes in a dusty bookstore basement. The money barely covered rent, and what little he saved went straight to his mother back home in Sycamore Springs. Her arthritis had worsened, and some days she could barely hold a spoon. But she always tried to sound cheerful on the phone, always asked him what he'd eaten, pretending not to notice when he dodged the question. Jaden had become an expert at not letting people worry about him. So when his cracked phone buzzed one Tuesday evening, long after most students had gone to sleep, he almost didn't pick up. He was hunched over a worn biology textbook in the corner of the library, surrounded by silence and fluorescent hums. The screen lit up, unknown number. He narrowed his eyes. Probably spam, probably nothing. But something, instinct maybe, or curiosity, made him press answer. "Hello," he said cautiously. The voice on the other end was warm, calm, unmistakable. "Jaden, this is Eliza Hartwell." His spine went rigid. He sat up straighter in the chair, his mind racing to catch up. "Miss Hartwell? I didn't think you'd." "I know," she interrupted gently. "It's late, and I hope I'm not disturbing you." "No, I mean, yes, no, you're not. I didn't expect this." She laughed lightly, and it caught him off guard. "Most people don't expect to hear from me, but I've been thinking about the other night, about you." Jaden swallowed, confused but suddenly wide awake. "Okay. You gave me your phone," she continued, without knowing who I was, no hesitation. That stuck with me. "It wasn't a big deal," he said quickly. "You needed help." "Yes, and I'm not used to people helping without asking for something in return." Her voice shifted slightly, more serious, "Which is why I'd like to talk again, in person, if you're open to it." He blinked. "In person? I'll send a car to your place tomorrow, if you're willing." Jaden stared at the rows of books in front of him, still not sure this was real. "Yeah, I'm willing." "Good," she said. "Get some sleep, Jaden." The line went dead. He stared at the screen for a long time afterward, the quiet of the library suddenly louder than before. Around him, the world went on, unaware that something in his life had just shifted. The next morning, just as promised, a sleek black car pulled up in front of his apartment building. The driver, the same man from that night, stepped out and opened the back door with a courteous nod. "Mr. Moore," he said, "Miss Hartwell is expecting you." Jaden climbed in, backpack slung across his chest like a shield. The leather seats were smooth and cold, and the scent inside the vehicle was subtle. Pine and something sharper, cleaner. He didn't speak. Neither did the driver. They moved through parts of the city Jaden had never seen, past shimmering towers, marble courtyards, and places where silence cost money. The car descended into the underground garage of a towering glass building. From there, he was ushered into a private elevator, which rose with a soft whoosh and opened directly into a vast office of steel and sunlight. Eliza stood near the floor-to-ceiling windows, her silhouette framed by the city. She turned as he entered, smiling, not like a CEO but like someone who was truly glad to see him. "Jaden," she said, "thanks for coming." He nodded, trying not to look as out of place as he felt. "Of course, I wasn't sure what to expect." "I imagine not." She motioned to a chair across from her desk, where a slim folder rested. "But I owe you some truth." He sat down slowly, heart thudding. Whatever this was, it was real, and it was only just beginning. The Hartwell Leadership Initiative wasn't what Jaden expected. It was more. The retreat center lay hidden in the misty folds of a mountain range just outside the city, a place so quiet it felt suspended in time. The estate spanned acres of pines, glass-paneled lodges, and winding paths that led to sunlit clearing rooms and lakeside bonfire pits. It was beautiful in a way that unnerved him, too serene for someone used to concrete, subway screeches, and the hum of survival. There were 20 of them in total. Students, activists, entrepreneurs, each with dazzling resumes and confidence to match. Jaden, in his thrift store hoodie and secondhand sneakers, felt like a mistake. During introductions, he kept it brief. I'm Jaden. I study biology. I work part-time and I'm here to learn. The others spoke in polished tones about published research, youth summits, startup ventures. They smiled politely at him, but he felt the invisible question hanging in the air. How did he get in? The first week was grueling. The days were built around intensive workshops on ethics, social leadership, systems theory, and human impact. But the true test wasn't academic, it was personal. They were asked to strip down their assumptions, debate with humility, and confront uncomfortable truths. Jaden listened more than he spoke, letting others dominate discussions. Still, he took everything in, quietly observing the currents underneath the confident surface. Midway through the week, tension erupted during a team simulation, a challenge about resource allocation in a fictional crisis. Two participants, both natural leaders, clashed hard over strategy. Voices rose. The room splintered into sides. No one could agree, and no one seemed to notice that the timer kept ticking down. Jaden stepped in, not loudly, not forcefully, just enough. He didn't choose a side. He sat with each member one by one, asking simple questions. Why do you feel this way? What's at stake for you? He didn't try to win. He tried to understand. When they regrouped, he looked at them all and said, "It's not about being right. It's about doing what's good." That one sentence softened the edges. They recalibrated. And by the end of the session, their team delivered one of the most cohesive presentations the program had seen yet. From that point forward, people started to see him differently. He wasn't the loudest in the room, but he noticed things. When someone missed breakfast, he left an extra granola bar by their seat. When a heated discussion left someone shaken, he lingered to ask if they were okay. And when others celebrated small wins, he cheered for them without envy. It was during a rare free afternoon that he found his roommate, Isaac, packing a duffel bag with a resigned slump in his shoulders. Jaden paused in the doorway, confused. "You leaving?" Isaac nodded without meeting his eyes. "Yeah, my little sister's in the hospital. Car accident. I need to fly home." Jaden frowned. "The foundation can help." "I asked," Isaac cut in. "They already used up the emergency fund this quarter, and I can't ask my parents. They're already drowning in medical debt." Jaden hesitated only a second. He returned to their room, pulled out the manila envelope containing his modest stipend, and handed it to Isaac without a word. Isaac stared. "I can't take that. That's your money." "You need it more," Jaden said simply. Later that week, a note made its way to Eliza's desk from the program coordinator. One participant had given up their entire living allowance for another. No fanfare, no announcement. But Eliza didn't need names. She knew. She started watching Jaden more closely after that. Not intrusively, just attentively. How he carried himself, how others began to lean on him without even realizing it. He never tried to impress. He simply showed up, again and again, with quiet kindness and grounded clarity. One evening, she sat at the back of a seminar room while Jaden led a small round table on leadership without recognition. He spoke not from theory, but from lived truth. "When I didn't have enough," he said, "someone saw something in me. They didn't give me money. They gave me trust. That's what changes people." Eliza felt something shift inside her, something deep and old, softening. This was why she created the initiative. But Jaden wasn't just a participant. He was a mirror to everything she hoped the program could be. He didn't lead to be followed. He led to uplift, and people followed him anyway. The invitation came quietly, like most things with Eliza. No announcement, no ceremony, just a soft knock on Jaden's door after a group session and her voice saying, "I'm heading out to Fairvale tomorrow. We're working on a water access project there. Would you like to come with me?" Jaden blinked at her. "Seriously? Me?" She smiled, that rare, restrained smile that never quite reached her eyes. "Yes, you." They flew out early the next morning on a small charter plane owned by the foundation. Below them, the world unfolded in quiet textures, rolling hills, sleepy towns, patchwork fields faded by sun and drought. Fairvale was one of those towns that had been forgotten by time. Dry land, rusted water tanks, paint peeling off old school walls. When the plane touched down on a makeshift airstrip and the truck rumbled through town, people came out onto porches and dusty roads to wave at Eliza like she was family. She greeted them all with the warmth of someone who remembered names and stories, hugging an old woman with sun-worn hands, crouching to speak to children at eye level, listening more than she spoke. But Jaden noticed something else, how she kept glancing over her shoulder like she was waiting for something to catch up with her. Or someone. That evening, they sat outside a local family's home under a tin roof, sipping sweet tea and watching kids run barefoot through the dirt, their laughter slicing through the warm air like birdsong. The sun dipped low, casting the world in soft gold. Eliza leaned back in her chair, her eyes following the horizon. "I grew up in a place like this," she said softly. "Maybe even worse." Jaden turned toward her, the slow cadence of her voice pulling him in. "My dad was a mechanic," she continued. "My mom worked nights at a diner. We had just enough to get by. Then one night, we had even less." He didn't ask. He just waited. "They died in a fire," she said after a long pause. "Gas leak. No alarms. No warning. I was 16. She inhaled deeply, the air catching in her chest like memory. "I bounced between relatives for a while, eventually clawed my way into community college. That's where I met a professor who changed everything. He pushed me, challenged me, told me I didn't have to be a statistic." Jaden nodded slowly, heart heavy. "So you built your company?" "I did," she said. "Started with coding for food delivery systems, moved into health tech, then impact investing, made my first million before I was 29. She looked away, eyes distant, and lost it all by 30. "What happened?" "I trusted the wrong person, business partner. He gutted the company from the inside, stole patents, erased me from my own work. I lost everything, money, credibility, faith." Her voice didn't shake, but something else did, something quieter, deeper. "People said I'd walk away. Instead, I rebuilt, smarter, tougher, colder." Jaden was silent for a long beat. Then he said, "That makes sense." She turned to him, surprised. "It does?" "Yeah," he said. "If everything you had was taken, it makes sense you'd want control, even if it meant building walls." Eliza stared at him, the weight of his words settling between them. Then, gently, she said, "But then you handed me your phone." He blinked. "That was nothing." "No, that was everything." Her voice was steady now. "You didn't ask who I was. You didn't calculate the risks. You just helped. And ever since then, you've been undoing things inside me I didn't even realize were locked shut." Jaden looked at her, really looked. For the first time, he didn't see the polished billionaire or the untouchable CEO. He saw someone worn at the edges, someone who'd fought long and hard just to remain whole. "I'm glad," he said quietly, "because people believe in you too. Probably more than you know." She laughed then, a short, startled sound that surprised even her. "I haven't laughed like that in years," she admitted, covering her mouth. They fell into silence, not out of discomfort, but because there was nothing left to prove. The night stretched around them like a soft blanket. And as Jaden helped unload water filters from the back of the truck later, laughing with the village kids and gently translating instructions into broken Spanish, Eliza watched him with something deeper than admiration. She felt trust, and for a woman who had spent her life building fortresses, that was everything. The celebration was understated, the way Eliza preferred things. No press, no spotlight. Just the 20 participants of the Hartwell Initiative gathered in the garden behind the estate. String lights twinkled gently above, casting halos over heads as music drifted low from a nearby speaker. Laughter mingled with the scent of jasmine and warm evening air. Jaden stood near a cluster of mentees, his posture relaxed, his smile easy. He still couldn't quite believe it was all ending. Or beginning, depending on how you looked at it. He was different now, and he knew it. Not in the way that people changed for show, but in the quiet shifts that take place beneath the surface. He had come in with doubt stitched into every seam, and now he stood at the center of conversations, not as a guest, but as a voice people leaned into. Still, he didn't talk much about himself. He asked questions, remembered names, noticed when someone looked like they needed to step away from the crowd. Eliza watched from a short distance, a flute of sparkling water in her hand, her eyes following him. He moved with calm purpose, like he belonged, like he'd always belonged. She felt something rise in her chest, pride, yes, but something softer too, something she hadn't allowed herself to name. When most of the guests had drifted off to their rooms and only the soft hush of night remained, she approached him beneath the tree strung with lanterns. "Jaden," she said, her voice quieter than usual. He turned, surprised. "Hey, I was actually just about to come find you. I beat you to it," she smiled. "Walk with me?" They wandered through the garden path, past hydrangeas and swaying ivy, until they reached a bench tucked beneath a flowering tree. She gestured, and they sat in a long, easy silence, the kind that doesn't need to be filled. Then she reached into her clutch and pulled out a folded letter, pressing it into his hand. "I was going to give this to you tomorrow," she said, "but I'm not great at waiting." Jaden unfolded it slowly. The Hartwell Foundation's logo was printed at the top, followed by a title he had to read twice to believe. "Director of Human Impact Initiatives," he read aloud, then looked up, stunned. "Is this real?" "It is," she said, her eyes steady. "It's more than a title. It's a voice, a platform, and I trust yours." His hands trembled slightly as he held the letter. "Why me?" Eliza stepped back, letting the moonlight catch her features. "Because you lead with heart. Because you don't need power to make people follow. You make them want to walk beside you. And because the world doesn't just need thinkers or dreamers. It needs anchors, and you are one." He exhaled, deeply moved. "I don't know what to say." "You already said it," she replied. "Every time you showed up for someone else without asking what you'd get in return." He nodded slowly, emotion tightening his throat. But Eliza wasn't done. "There's something else," she said, standing now, her voice different, less polished, more vulnerable. She began to pace slowly, then turned to face him. "I've spent most of my life believing love was a distraction, that if I let someone in, I'd lose control, or worse, I'd lose myself." She met his gaze. "But then I met you, and for the first time, I didn't feel pulled away from who I was. I felt grounded, safe." Jaden rose, closing the space between them. His voice was steady, but soft. "I know there's an age gap. I know you're the head of all this, and yeah, people would talk. But life isn't lived on paper, Eliza." She swallowed, emotion flashing across her face. "I don't have a perfect plan," he continued, "but I know that when I'm near you, I'm not afraid of what's next." She stepped closer. "I never wanted to need anyone." "You don't need me," he said, "but maybe you want me, and that's enough." Their fingers found each other, tentative but sure, a slow intertwining beneath the lantern light. 2 years later, Jaden stood at the podium of a global summit on youth leadership and human compassion. Behind him, images flickered across a giant screen. Clean water projects, mental health programs, mobile classrooms in underserved neighborhoods. His words were steady, sincere. "There was a time," he said, "when all I had was a dying phone and a borrowed backpack. And a stranger asked to borrow my phone. I almost said no, but I didn't." He looked down at the front row where Eliza sat, her hand pressed gently to her chest. That one yes changed everything. The crowd rose in a standing ovation, but Jaden didn't linger in the applause. He stepped down, found Eliza waiting, and took her hand. That evening, they walked barefoot on a quiet beach, the waves kissing the shore like a memory, their footprints side by side. Because sometimes, the smallest choice, a simple yes, becomes the moment that rewrites everything. Sometimes the most powerful changes in life come from the simplest acts of kindness. Jaden didn't have wealth, influence, or even stability, but he had compassion. By choosing to help a stranger on a cold night, without hesitation or expectation, he opened the door to a future he never imagined possible. This story reminds us that no good deed is ever wasted. The world may be loud with ambition and status, but what truly resonates, what truly transforms, is sincerity, humility, and heart. Eliza, a woman who had everything but trust, rediscovered her belief in people through someone who had nothing to gain. And Jaden, who once questioned his worth, learned that being genuine in a world of performance is not a weakness, it's a quiet form of strength. No matter where you are in life, whether you're barely getting by or sitting atop success, kindness bridges the gap between strangers, between worlds, between pain and healing. It is not the grand gestures, but the small human moments that shape destinies. So the next time someone asks you for help or you're unsure if your actions matter, remember Jaden. Remember that one yes can echo through lives and open doors you never even knew existed. Now, we want to hear from you. Where in the world are you watching from? Drop a comment below. We'd love to know. And if this story touched your heart, Don't forget to subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories for more true-to-life tales that celebrate kindness, courage, and the beauty of unexpected connections. Until next time, keep believing in the power of one simple act.